Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a special call meeting of the Commissioners Court. It's Monday, January 9, 2023, at 1:45 p.m. We're in the courtroom located at the Courthouse at 100 Grove Street, Granbury, Texas. The only agenda item today is to discuss and take appropriate action to rescind the November 8, 2022 Commissioners Court recommendation of my passage by 3-2 vote to the Board of Directors of the Upper Community Groundwater Conservation District and to provide current recommendation to the Board of Directors of the Upper Community Groundwater Conservation District to appoint a member from Hood County to fill the current vacancy left by Richard English. If any of the commissioners wish to speak at this time, you can. If not, we have 4 citizens that have signed up to speak. They will each be given 5 minutes to address this court. If any commissioner wish to make a statement before? Okay.
So last Friday, January 6, 2023, this item is on the agenda, exact same item, but it did not have a decision language. And as you may recall, the judge was concerned that we should rescind the November 8th nomination before we can pass on a new nomination. Here in the new 2023 Commissioner Report, it has a different composition. We discussed this issue at length on Friday, this agenda item, and several speakers came to the podium and spoke, and then the commissioners spoke, and we got the county attorney up and he spoke to make sure there was no question as to the procedural notice requirements with this agenda item. And therefore, the motion that I placed on the table last Friday was withdrawn, and we moved the meeting until this point in time at this location to make sure that the Open Meetings Act is properly complied with. And this is to bring everybody back up to snuff. This agenda item is about making a recommendation to the Upper Community Groundwater Conservation District that sits up in Springtown, Texas, for a board member director from Hood County to sit on that board for the remainder of the unexpired term left by Mr. Richard English. That term expires on May 31st, 2025. So this is for an unexpired term to go a little more than 2 years. And I know we've got a couple of speakers. You said 4? So I'll go ahead and put a motion on the table. And then the speakers can speak. I'm going to move that we rescind November 8, 2022 Commissioner Report recommendation of my passage to the Board of Directors of the Upper Community Groundwater Conservation District, and to now recommend to the Upper Community Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors that they appoint Mr. Bob Luss to fill the vacancy left by Richard English's department.
All that we should go ahead and hear from the members of the citizens that have signed up to speak before we take a vote. So you can hold that motion until the 4 speakers have spoken. But at this time, I call Mr. Mike Scott. So you come down and sit at the table and use the microphone. Go ahead.
As we all know, Judge, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. The acoustics in here are horrible, and they're only exceeded by the sun. But, wow. I can't hear you, and I can't see you, so. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that sun's just a real quick thing on me. I ran the Chamber of Commerce in Granbury for 15 years. I ran a Chamber of Commerce in Florida for a similar amount of time. I spent 28 years in the Navy flying off carriers and fighters, started in Vietnam. So I've been around the world, I've done a few things. I will tell you that the Chamber of Commerce is a political organization, meaning they don't get involved in politics. I spent 15 years walking the very thin line in Hood County and not playing the political game. Since I retired, I've gotten a little more involved in it, and I have to tell you, it's like watching sausage being made. You don't want to eat it after you've seen it. So I'm not thrilled to be here, but whatever. When we started the Upper Trinity Groundwater Organization, I was one of the founding people that helped put it together, as several people in this room were. We built that organization from the ground up. We started out with Mike Massey as our representative, along with John Henry Luke. And John Henry did a great job. He went on to be with the Brazos River Authority. And we've got a great guy. We started with Doug Shaw as the general manager. He's still the general manager. He's a very knowledgeable person. He doesn't need a lot of help. He knows what he's doing. He needs a board to help fly the airplane or drive the train. I don't know that he needs a whole lot of PhDs, but regardless, I'd like to read a letter that came from the Hood County Forward organization prior to the December meeting, and I'm going to try to cut through this quickly, but it's the Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, RE, vacant board position representing Hood County. Dear members, recently a board position representing Hood County was vacated. Hood County Commission voted 3-2 to nominate Mike Massey to fill this position under court, and we all know that under their bylaws, they get to fill it, we don't. It has been brought to our attention that Hood County Commissioner Dave Eagle, acting of his own volition and not as a representative of Hood County, reached out to current members of the board in an effort to encourage board members to select an individual other than the one recommended by the County Commissioners Court. I spent most of my life being on teams. I'm a team player. That kind of activity, going behind what I consider going behind the Hood County Commission, Mr. Eagle would have been fragged if he'd been in Vietnam by his own troops. You just don't do that. That's not the way we want to play ball in Hood County. Mr. Massey was selected because he was originally selected because he was the most qualified individual for the position. First and foremost, Mr. Massey was one of the original board members when it was organized more than 15 years ago. I'm skipping through a little bit of this. Furthermore, Mr. Massey is a longtime rancher and resident of Hood County. Few professions are as closely related to water availability as his. His very livelihood depends on his intelligent use of water supplies, including groundwater. Unlike the other two applicants in the position, Mr. Massey has a vested interest in the Upper Trinity Groundwater Control District and the groundwater it works to conserve. I will mention there's only 2 candidates now, as Mr. Mercer dropped out. In conclusion, we ask that you consider the recommendation of the Hood County Commissioners Court. Mr. Massey is truly the most qualified individual to sit on the UTGCD board. His previous experience shows that he will not need a learning period to be successful in his role as a board member. Simply put, no one would better represent the interests of Hood County than Mr. Mike Massey. If you were in a fight, gentlemen, and you lost a wingman, which we've done, we lost a wingman, you'd want to replace him with the most qualified guy you could possibly find to fly the airplane, to fly that position. Mike Massey is the only guy. I will tell you, as a 2,000-hour jet fighter instructor pilot, the last person you want trying to fly an airplane is a guy with a PhD that can build it because he's an aeronautical engineer. So you can either build the airplane or you can fly the airplane. I'm telling you that Mike Massey can fly the airplane. He's proven it, and then I'm going to read you if I have time. I don't know how I'm doing it, but almost 50 people signed this letter that went to the board. Elton Abels, Annette Abels, Jerry East, Gail East, Ronnie Tomlinson, Charlie Pillow, Joan Pillow, Brett Deason, Nancy Alana, Marilyn Luton, John Henry Luton, who was a previous board member. Jo Ruth Sandell is also on there. She was a previous board member. And I've got about 30 more names here. The Overstreets, the Burwells, the Julia Pinnell, and I'm done. Thank you for your time. So vote for Mike Massey. Thank you.
Okay, speaker number 2, Mary Criswell.
Judge, is it okay with you if I stand today? Thank you, Judge. So, some of the criticism coming into this meeting today is that the Commissioners Court has already made a choice. The past Commissioners Court made a choice, and now, thanks to the will of the people, the new Commissioners Court gets to make their choice. This choice represents a changing of the guard, much like we could see in D.C. coming soon, all those IRS agents that the Democrats decided to hire with a new Republican majority. We could see some reversal of some policies, and in this case, a reversal of who this board recommends, which again, as Mike Scott pointed out, this is purely a recommendation. Now, before I get into the record of Mr. Massey, I think it's important to note that the only reason this is a big deal is because things in Hood County have changed, and I believe they've changed for the better. The days of the good old boys getting their way on every single issue without any discussion, any debate, or any thoughtful consideration are over. It's up to this Commissioners Court now to practice principled conservatism and stay out of the personalities. I don't care if somebody flew an airplane, I don't care if somebody's a rancher. As one of your constituents, what I care about is having the most qualified. And, you know, since we're talking about people's military service, as someone that maintained an aircraft for 4 years in the Navy, I can tell you the last person I want telling me how to run things is someone that flew them. We all know how those personalities get. Lusk is a subject matter expert on this issue. Hands down, he's the only subject matter expert. And as you all know, because you received an email from Mr. Tom Mercer, who was the third applicant, he has put his support behind Mr. Lusk. I think that the main reason that I adamantly oppose Mike Massey's appointment, or in this case recommendation to this board, is because as he served, he wanted to restrict property rights and change the way we allow water wells to be drilled from the current regulation of 2 acres to expanding out to 5 acres. That infringes on private property rights, and it shows someone that is out of touch with the people of Hood County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. 3 points. One is that this was decision was voted on previously by the previous court, and apparently there was purported intervention by one of the members of that Commissioners Court to delay a decision. I think the discussion last Friday, this being the second of 3 Commissioner Court meetings in 6 days. But at that discussion, everyone agreed that Mr. Massey was very qualified. And so it's not a question of qualifications. I have a certain bias in favor of PhDs, like Mr. Scott. But I think changing the recommendation, first the intervention and then changing the recommendation, is very disrespectful to Mr. Massey. And that then reflects poorly, I think, on the Commissioner's Court and how it's viewed. I don't think we should re-litigate everything that we disagree with. If a decision is made and then we're going to go through forever re-litigating. I think there also may be some question if one of the members of the Commissioner's court election was based on suspicious validation of credentials, a la George Santos, representative from New York, then this vote might be have to be rescinded in the future if looked at. So I think the recommendation should stand as it was and probably would have been approved without intervention. And I think it's fair representation. I think both candidates are perfectly qualified. But I think how just as the debacle in the last week of the House of Representatives to try to demonstrate power does not reflect well on them. I think this does not reflect well on the Commissioner's Court. So I'd say it should stand the way it was previously voted. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. I too was in the Navy. I'm not sure how germane that is, and I drove a ship, and I'm happy to be a team player, and I don't see any issue at all with undoing previous actions. I think if the current court was to change something that happened in the past was fine, and I certainly also, just a side note, saw nothing wrong with what happened in Washington, D.C. recently. That's called politics, it's called democracy, it's called debating. So I'm fine with that. Everything I've heard about Mr. Lusk, I think he has great credentials. His qualifications are above reproach. And I fully support Dave Eagle's motion to undo previous action, reverse previous action by a vote, and then a new vote. So I just want to go on record as saying I support that current motion. So, thank you.
That's all the speakers. I just want to clarify on the language. Mr. Eagle said that the county judge made a procedural deal. I spoke and said that I contacted Jim Allison, who's the head of TAC Legal Counsel, who said that the procedural notice requirement is not followed, that you can't have two recommendations from the Commissioner's Court without having rescinded the first one. And that's why we're here today. So we're following the correct procedural motion according to tax legal counsel. I believe it was Commissioner Andrews that made the motion to reset after proper notice, seconded by Commissioner Shanks. And that's why we're here today. So that's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to make sure that everything's legally and procedurally correct. So we have on the floor right here a motion made by Commissioner Eagle to rescind the prior recommendation of the Commissioner's Court of Hood County on November the 8th of 2022 and to nominate Bob Lusk as opposed to Mike Massey as the member for Hood County to fill the vacancy left by Richard English. So that's the motion. Is any commissioner wish to say anything else? Any comment or questions? If not, go to